Aloha, aloha, aloha to the warriors out there. Road 245, day 14. Um, it's been a road for sure. So today we're gonna talk about what's happening on our roads here in Hilo or Hawaii Island, and are there more that we need to dig into all this tragedy that's happening on our roads? So let's dig into it. Uh, it's been kind of horrible to realize that there's all these accidents and deaths and just unimaginable grief and pain that's coming from all of this tragedy. And for the most part, there's, I think, fingers pointing every direction that we can think of. And I don't know if we're getting any closer to some kind of like solution. Now, for Hawaii Island, we've been having a lot of tragedies on Saddle Road. And, back in the day, that road wasn't the most traveled road. In fact, most rental companies would have said and advised you not to travel that road because it wasn't a great road to travel because there were so many factors, right? It was super windy. It fogged out a lot. Most people don't realize the elevation increase and the elevation decrease. Those things haven't really changed. It still fogs out. You're still climbing. You're still descending. Um, but it's more. I think we've had in the last 10 to 15 years more tragedy on car accidents on that road, and I always think like I know there's a lot of things that factor into these things like weather, um, speed, alcohol, impaired driving, distracted driving. And I don't know if that's like any one of those are the pinpoints, but I do have a question. And one of my good friends and I were having this discussion because we often travel that road as photographers to get to the west side if we're coming from the east side, and the west siders coming to the east side using that particular road, the Daniel K. Inouye, in lack of better terms, the Saddle Road. And in the last 5 years since the pandemic, we've had seen so much unnecessary tragedy happening on that road. And so my question was, um, is anybody checking the tires on these cars that are hydroplaning, speeding? Um, and the only reason I asked that is because, and I questioned that in my conversation with other people, is we have so many more vehicles on the road today than we did 10 years ago. We also have a lot of non-stock cars on the road, or vehicles on the road, personal vehicles as well as privately owned companies or company owned vehicles. A lot of these cars or these vehicles are not on stock tires, and because of that, it changes the weight and the differentiation of where the center of gravity in each of those vehicles actually lie. And sometimes it's, anybody that knows a little bit of physics will know when you raise something up pretty high, you're going to raise the center of gravity, which means you're also going to raise the amount of lift that comes in under a vehicle. And I know it looks really flash and I know it looks pretty cool. And people are raising and lifting their vehicles to, for whatever reason, they go mud boggy or they want to clear going over areas in which they engage their four-wheel drive, which is what the four-wheel drive is meant to do, is to get off roading in the sense that you can have all four tires having traction on the ground that they're on, right? But when these cars are being built, they're not necessarily being designed to have a 3 inch to 6 inch lift. They're not necessarily being designed. The body of the car, the engine that goes into the car, and I'm not an auto person at all, It's just physics for me. Understanding the scientific part of it is the heavier the car, the more it's gonna push down on center of gravity. But then you lift the car and then you put on bigger tires, and wider tires. Again, center of gravity displacement. And I don't know if anybody's actually checking these tires to see if they're being properly maintained. Because if you're hydroplaning, accelerating on a climb up a road, you've got, had to have lost traction of your tire on the road. And now most people know, I mean, everybody knows, at least everybody that drives on the road should know that that's all asphalt. There's no cement, which is changes the way in which your tire sits on those different pavements. It's all asphalt on side of the road. And so I wonder if anybody really realizes, like, are we checking our tires when we are planning our trips over to the other side of the island using Saddle Road? And if you're not, maybe we should be trying to check those things, especially for young kids. Like that last one was hard. You know, that kid, she had a lot, to look forward to, and whatever the reason may be, I don't know. I wasn't in the vehicle with her. I don't know um, what her personal life was like, but I do know that um, if she was hydroplaning, then there's a lot of factors that might have been able to have been avoided. And if that is the case, then everybody else, every parent out there that has a kid that's driving, can you please check the maintenance of your child's vehicle? I'm pretty sure the vehicle is under your insurance and the safety check and the registration, if it's all legal. I'm pretty sure that these younger kids or younger drivers who just got their license within a year or 2 years or 3 years, I'm pretty sure that these vehicles belong to their parents. And therefore, it's the parents' job to maintain the wear and tear on their car. Especially we got our babies in it. So that was a question like I had, and if anybody just wants to hit the comments and tell me what they think about it, I'm all open to any kind of like insight. I'm not saying I know everything about cars. I don't. I'm not saying I know everything about physics. I don't, but I do know as somebody that travels that road very often. Even for me, even in a rental, I'm putting my trust in those who own the car to have done their due diligence in maintaining the car for its maximum safety, and if not, then I gotta do it myself, right? Like driving the truck over saddle, check the tires, make sure we're rotating the tires on the vehicle if we're using that vehicle to go over saddle more often than not. And if we're not doing it, then I always try to make sure that we try to get that done. Or even just go to, if I'm on Hilo side, go to Chica's and have them just check kind of everything, air the tire, check, the oil and all of that, because it's something that I don't know how to do. Like, not sure I don't know how to do it, but it's not something I don't do often. And so I do put my investment in organizations and companies that can do it for me. But sometimes it's just the wherewithal and the maintenance. Like, how many of us are checking those tires, and how many of those vehicles that have been in accidents on Saddle and elsewhere around the island that have led to like massive either loss or even hurt of loved ones? How many of us is taking consideration, like, is anybody checking the tires? Is the tires bald on one side? It's not have enough thread for it to have enough grip to be on the road to travel at that speed, at that amount for that length of time. Um, and this is just me having a conversation with a good friend of mine as we're driving over Saddle and thinking like, hey, maybe this is something that we all might have to make more people aware of. Like, I want my family to be safe. I want the community to be safe, you know. So maybe there's something, as some kind of, proper maintenance on vehicles traveling over a saddle, that we're doing our due diligence to check even that part. Um, and I'm not saying that all of that a balding tire has led to all these tragedy on the road. We know that there are other things that led to these unfortunate tragedies, but maybe are we looking at some of the smaller details that we can take care of? And if we're not, then can we just start encouraging our families to do that? Because after we had that conversation, I was like, "Eh, do we even change the tires on my car? Did we even check on that um before we went the last time?" And so I'm going to be a bit more cognizant and aware of how to do that. But just thinking about those things is important. Just too many of these unfortunate tragedies happening, and so trying to look out for the community in my own little way. But that's just something. If you have any comments, please leave comments below. If any solutions, any discussions that you want to have, like, please leave comments below, and we'll try to see, if we can all collectively come together for some kind of, solution in that case. Other than that, uh, always keep Allah in your heart, because when you have Allah in your heart, you have more Allah to share with the world. And truly and honestly believe that Allah will save the world 1% at a time. So if you can, please take Allah with you wherever you go. You guys have a good one. Allah, Ahuiho.